The story of Apple both starts and ends with war and the case of stolen ideas. From Xerox accusing Apple for stealing the ideas for their personal computer.
Now, back in the 80s, there were no software patents, and it was Xerox that pioneered the graphical user interface.
I mean, Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And I'm also one of these people that I don't really care about being right, you know. It turns out the same thing can happen in technology companies that get monopolies, like, IBM and Xerox. If you were a product person at IBM or Xerox, so you make a better copy or a better computer. So what?
What if they had patented pop-up menus, scroll bars, the desktop with icons that look like folders and sheets of paper? Would a young and inexperienced Apple have survived the legal assault of a much larger, more mature company like Xerox?
To the same Apple accusing Samsung, Google and Bill Gates, Microsoft of stealing their own ideas.
And we have, always been shameless about stealing great ideas.
But what's even more fascinating is how Apple managed to beat all the criticisms and competitions and yet still became the biggest tech giant in the world.
Apple has become the first company in the world to reach a market value of $3 trillion.
I think when you look at Apple's historical performance as well, so many of their businesses have tended to do well, even in times of economic hardship.
But most importantly, how do they manage to own everything? In the earliest 20th century, tech companies like Xerox and Samsung were already in existence and they were literally revolutionizing the computer age. But as time goes on, in 1975, Bill Gates and his partner, Paul Allen, founded a new company, which they called Microsoft, and at the time they were basically making software for microcomputers. Meanwhile, at the same time, two young hackers, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, both have a vision of taking the tech industry to the next level. So they would often meet up in Jobs' garage, coming up with ideas. After months of brainstorming, trial and error, Wozniak made Apple I, which was like an assembled circuit board that lacked basic features such as the keyboard, monitor and case. So Steve Jobs, Wozniak and Ronald Wayne founded Apple Computer Company in 1976 to sell Wozniak's invention. Jobs sold his boss, while Wozniak sold his HP calculator to have some fun for marketing. After a debut, it went on sale for $666. After 12 days of starting the company, Ronald Wayne sold the shares of the company to Jobs and Wozniak for $800. A few months later, they changed the name to Apple Computer Inc. They got fundings of about $250,000 from a millionaire called Mike Makula, and Wozniak once again invented the Apple II. The Apple II paved way for the company after generating over $100 million, making the company the leading computer manufacturer in the United States, and they kept on making different varieties of the Apple II. But a critical moment that changed the company's history came when Jobs and some of his Apple employees went to Xerox PARC to see a demonstration of the Xerox Alto, a computer using a graphic user interface, GUI.
And they thought, well, we should partner with a company like Apple, and they'll make our machines for us, something like that. They had some kind of idea of that type. And when they got to Apple, they made a deal where, in exchange for various business arrangements, distribution and future discussions of manufacturing and so on, Apple would sell them stock, which was a very appealing thing because it was clear Apple was going to have a very successful IPO. And in exchange, though, Steve Jobs required that they get information, disclosure about everything cool going on at Xerox PARC.
They agreed, and after seeing the demonstrations, Jobs was immediately convinced that all future computers will use a GUI, and hence the development of a GUI began for the Apple's Lisa. So to be fair here, Apple didn't just steal Xerox's idea, they made a transaction. Xerox gave them a demonstration, while Apple sold shares to them at a cheaper price. Apple was growing like wildfire, all thanks to the Apple II, so they had a lot of board executives who owned shares of the company. Steve Jobs also went to Pepsi to meet the president, John Sculley, and gave him a proposal to join the Apple team, saying, "Do you want to continue selling sugar water for the rest of your life, or come with me and change the world?" Sculley immediately accepted and he became the CEO of Apple. The Lisa was launched and became the first personal computer sold to the public with a graphic user interface, that is the GUI, but it was a commercial failure due to the high price and limited software titles. That problem would later be solved in the following year, 1984.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
You've just seen some pictures of Macintosh. Now I'd like to show you Macintosh in person. All of the images you are about to see on the large screen will be generated by what's in that bag. Now we've done a lot of talking about Macintosh recently, but today, for the first time ever, I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
Hello, I am Macintosh. It sure is great to get out of that bag. And accustomed as I am to public speaking, I'd like to share with you a maxim I thought of the first time I made an IBM mainframe. Never trust a computer you can't live.
The first personal computer to be sold without a programming language. It was called a masterpiece by the CNN, and sales were initially good, but began to slump after the first 3 months. However, at the same time, Microsoft just released their first version of the Windows 1.0, with a GUI, which Apple initially agreed to license certain part of its GUI to Microsoft. But when Microsoft made changes in Windows 2.0, adding features found in the Macintosh GUI, Apple filed a lawsuit. And to make matters worse, Jobs took some Apple employees to found a new company after being sacked, which he called Next. At the same time, Steve Wozniak also quit his active employment at Apple to pursue other ventures, expressing his frustration with Apple's treatment of the Apple II division, stating the company had been going in the wrong direction for the past 5 years. After the departure of Jobs and Wozniak, John Scully tried to improve the Macintosh by quadrupling the RAM, but nobody seems to see the need of having the Macintosh because it was too bulky, highly priced, and had a very low battery life. The company lost its dominant position in the desktop market, and Apple's stock price reduced by 20%. While Apple was collapsing, they still went to court, accusing Microsoft for copying the same features on the Macintosh operating system for their Windows operating system, which was protected under copyright laws. This led to a little war between the two companies that went on for years. So, in order to gain the trust of the people, Apple launched 3 other Macintosh models and the PowerBook, all of them at a very low price, and as you would expect, they were all successful because of the price. Next Inc., Steve Jobs' new company, also introduced their first product, the Next computer, and its smaller versions. The lawsuit filed against Microsoft also came to an end, all in favor of Microsoft. The CEO of Apple also left and demanded $300 million, while Apple was willing to pay $125 million. Apple was literally on the verge of bankruptcy, so they knew they had to bring Steve Jobs back on board. So they acquired his company Next instead for $429 million and made Jobs the interim CEO of Apple. As the CEO, he cancelled 70% of the company's products, which resulted in the loss of 3,000 jobs. After some months, Jobs convinced their competitor Microsoft to make a $150 million investment in Apple. And after his first year as CEO, Apple made $309 million in profits. In 1999, Apple introduced a new all-in-one computer reminiscent of the original Macintosh, the iMac. It houses the computer, the drives, and the monitor, all in the same case. The iMac was a huge success for Apple, selling 800,000 units in its first 5 months. After a year, Apple introduced the iBook, a laptop for consumers that focused on quality and innovation. Apple Computer Inc. were literally back to where they belong, all thanks to Steve Jobs. They kept making more and more profit each year, and in 2007, everything was about to change. Apple now wanted to diversify and become the biggest tech company in the world, so they changed their name from Apple Computer to Apple. There is something called an ecosystem, which in business means a complex network or an interconnected system. And now, Apple seems to be the perfect example of a solid ecosystem. We now live in an age where Apple controls all your technology and internet desires. When Apple changed its name in 2007, their plan was to diversify into mobile phones first.
So, 3 things. A widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. Here it is.
And hence the introduction of the iPhone, the iMac, and the Apple TV. The company sold 270,000 iPhone units during its first 30 hours of sales, and it was a game changer for the company. At this time, Samsung mobile phones just started gaining popularity, but was nowhere compared to the iPhone. The next year, the App Store was launched, which made $1 million daily, making Apple the 3rd largest mobile handset supplier in the world, only behind Nokia and BlackBerry. But by 2010, everything changed. The iPhone 4 was released. Apple, for the very first time in 2 decades, exceeded their longtime competitor, Microsoft, in revenue. Instagram was also launched mainly for Apple users. Soon after, the iPhone 5 was released, and from nowhere, Samsung Electronics became the world's largest mobile phone maker by unit sales, overtaking Nokia. As Samsung became very popular, we all knew something was about to happen. And spoiler alert, it did. Apple filed a lawsuit suing Samsung for being a copycat, asking for $2.7 billion for damages. The case was dragged for months before finally the verdict arrived. Apple won the case, but Samsung was only asked to pay $1 billion instead of the $2.7 billion Apple initially demanded for. After the win, Apple said, "We are grateful to the jury for showing Samsung that copying has a cost." Since then, Apple have been producing all kinds of products and services in a way that if you get any Apple product, it is hard to get another type of tech product from another brand, making all Apple products connected to each other. For instance, if you have an iPhone and you need a laptop, instead of getting an HP laptop with Windows operating system, it is only wise for you to get a MacBook, because it will be easier to connect your iPhone to the MacBook. So if you need an appliance, visit the Apple Store. Need a PC for work or home, get a MacBook. Need a smartphone, get the iPhone. Need some entertainment, then use the Apple TV. Want some good music, go to the Apple Music on your iPhone. Want to listen to the music, get an Apple AirPod. Want some games on your iPhone, go to the App Store and download them. Need a watch that can be connected to your iPhone, then get the Apple Watch. Want to track your important possessions, then purchase an Apple AirTag. Want to edit videos on your MacBook, use the iMovie. Apple keeps on diversifying, and it's never gonna end anytime soon. And for me, I think it's only just the beginning. Now, Apple is currently working on producing an electric car, which may lead to another war and competition with Elon Musk's Tesla Motors.
Get ready for the iCar. What's your take on the resurgence of this Apple automobile?
We have confirmed from multiple sources that Apple is in discussions with Hyundai Kia to build an Apple car.
Yeah, I hope it works out.
For years, automakers have been trying to integrate your phone into your car, and now it feels like this has been turned on its head. It's integrating your car essentially into your phone.
So the message from Eric Woodring and our Apple team is Apple's gonna do a car, okay? And it's gonna be a game changer.
I think they'll probably make a good car and probably be successful.
Upside, it's a $10 trillion mobility market. If Apple can capture even 5% of that at 2 times revenues, that could add 30 or 40% to Apple. So the message is, Apple's going to do a car. It's going to take a while because they're going to go straight to autonomy, but finally Tesla's going to get some real competition from someone that can transfer their skills and make a huge difference.
What's fascinating about Apple is the fact that they don't just own everything in the technology space, but even their competitors use their products. Here's a twist posted by Samsung in which they made a poll asking their users to vote what innovation they want to see them review. But underneath the poll, it says Twitter for iPhone, meaning Samsung just used an iPhone to send a tweet to Samsung users. Ironic, isn't it? Twitter just have a way of making fun of people out of nowhere, and trust me, throughout the entire week, Twitter was filled with tweets from iPhone users making mockery of the Samsung. Apple Music have also been caught using Twitter for Android, which some may say it was a strategy to promote Apple Music. However, while the rivalry between Microsoft and Apple reduced over time, the rivalry between Apple and Samsung kept on increasing. On one Twitter post, Apple Music posted, "What are you guys listening?" A few minutes later, Samsung replied, "Spotify." Are you thinking what I'm thinking? What if Apple's next war is against Spotify? Either way, this is also a Samsung commercial making fun of the iPhone.
Name's Pat.
Oh, hi, Pat. This is embarrassing. I can't find the micro SD slot.
Yeah, that's because it doesn't have one.
Oh. Galaxy S9 has one. So, how do I get more storage?
Cloud.
Oh, I don't want my stuff up there. I don't want it on the phone.
Forget this guy. Buy this guy.
Oh.
It's just $140 more. So, we doing this?
This is also Apple making fun of Android devices. The banter between these tech giants occasionally just keeps them growing more and more. It's kind of like free advertisement, but in a bad way.
The art of those commercials is not to be mean, but it's actually for the guys to like each other. Thanks.
But if you think the story of Apple ends here, then my friend, you're wrong. The next video here shows how the world's most notorious hacker and best friend of Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, became the most wanted man in America. Thank you for watching this video till the end. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.